This is the 8-9 Combo Podcast with Brett McKay and Harry Jones.
This is the 8-9 Combo, and this is the Test Match Post-Mortem. In South Africa running away with a 30 points to 12 win in wet conditions at Optus Stadium in Perth. I'm Brett McKay. This is Harry Jones, and mate, as our podcast listeners have just heard there, the Wallabies, I think, greatly improved this week, but ultimately still falling away short.
How's it, Brett? Yeah, I think probably people could quibble about the improvement or not. It's interesting. I wonder what Joe thinks about across the two tests and what he learned. And, you know, I think we're pretty clear now about Rassie getting away with something, which is putting a third string pack in the rain. And a lot of those guys, you know, were just wide-eyed and bushy-tailed in Perth-toria. But in the end, it came off. And, you know, I'd say that if you began the season as a Bok fan, you said, I'll give you 33-7 and 30-12 in the back-to-back wins. You'd probably go, I'll take that. I don't even know how it happened, but I'll take it. And then concomitantly, from the Wallaby side, coming from the horror of 2023, I think it was about testing. I mean, you know, tests test you, but putting people like Josh Nasser in the mix and saying, and what does it look like? So he comes with 12 tackles. Carlo Truzano makes a little bit of a redemption. So I guess that's what you're probably referring to is there was a bit of more of a battle this time around.
Yeah, and we'll come to that because there's a few things I want to explore there. We are back with our international season offering that we debuted in July, an initial prognosis, if you like, about what we've just seen in Perth and in Auckland tonight. And we're really pleased to be doing this for you across the Rugby Championship by Chasing the Sun 2. We've partnered up with the wonderful 5-part all-access series documenting the Springboks' journey to their memorable 2023 Rugby World Cup win, and which is coming soon to RugbyPass TV worldwide. Simply head to rugbypass.tv and sign up for free, where you can watch the first series there already. Just mentioning New Zealand 42 beat Argentina 10 in Auckland tonight, and that is their 50th straight win at Eden Park, which is incredible. And the Boks, obviously 30 points to 12 over Australia in Perth. And it's a historic win for South Africa too, mate. Their third straight win in Australia for the first time. It
is. I mean, my immediate reaction is it should have been about 50 because there were so many tries bombed, dropped. Jesse Creel could have just probably chested that ball in there and scored, and probably Sasha could have done the same thing. I was more excited about the vast improvement of Shawnee Maloney, our friend, who just rolled Sasha Feinberg Zulu, like he had grown up with him. And I was actually really heartened by that. But I did see that he had a verbal tick, which is Peter Steph Toy became Steph Toy. So there you go. He's back. Yeah.
Shawnee had the safety net of Brian Habana beside him, though, as well. I did notice. Let's get straight into it with the 5-word headline. Remembering the winning headline becomes the pod title, and that I might be on a bit of a streak of these. So fire away.
Always helps to know the judge. My headline is contested, then uncontested.
I like that.
I felt like there was actually quite a big lull, and so that's what I'm drawing attention to, because there were moments in the first half where I thought, "Ooh, could this have been a giant mistake?"
Yes,
by Rassie. But then I thought, no, in the end, it just looked very, very comfortable.
I've gone down a very similar route. Mine was simply, how good are uncontested scrums? Because it did have that impact, didn't it? When James Slipper was forced off in the 49th minute, I think it was, suddenly we had an uncontested scrum situation, and Malcolm Marks, Oxenshire had just come on. Have I got that right?
Yeah.
And everything was just removed from them. It was like their superpower had been taken away from them. And I think it definitely helped the Wallabies forwards, because all of a sudden there was one extra effort that they didn't have to go through. And so, you know, it definitely helped them. Obviously, it made no bearing on the contest in the end, which is why I like your headline, and you will win it tonight.
Yes. It was big because
it was a big moment.
The Wallabies had dodged judgment in the scrums all through the first half. There was one, I never bash refs. I won't even say his name, but it was unbelievably weird that someone got pancaked and the other guy gets pinged. And so there was a couple of things that just made no sense. So you thought, okay, that's okay, because in the second half we're going to come on and it's going to be like obvious. It's going to be so obvious, and then
it didn't happen. It didn't happen at all.
League has just come into our game again.
our only other discussion of referees. I want to give Luke Pearce a rap and give him credit for just alerting Paul Williams to the fact that because James Slipper went off with an HIA, the Wallabies are entitled to keep 15 players on the field. There was a little moment there where they had to play with 14, but that was quickly corrected by the officials, and the game went on, and that was all good. What worked for the winners today, made in round 2 of the Rugby Championship, noting New Zealand as well?
In New Zealand, what worked was kicking 35 times instead of the Pumas' insipid 21 in a day of rain. It was not as rainy as Perth, but it was close. Kicking variety, not just the 35, but always keeping your opponents guessing. Balls sliding around, jumping around, sometimes just deading like a ball backing up on the green.
Yeah.
And so big exits. So those kicks were normal, but then around attacking game, they played downhill. Guys like Darry looked really good running downhill. You saw Pablo Matera, nothing really Matera's, just getting monsters. And Marcos Kremer got creamed. So
yeah,
I thought fundamentals in the rain, Kiwis looked very comfortable in it.
Yeah.
At 21-3, 25 minutes in, it was done. It could draw a line through it if you realize it's in Eden Park, and then sure enough, it was 35 or something.
Yeah, 35-3 at half time, and that was that. All I'll say about New Zealand is that I felt like they, maybe for the first time this year, rediscovered their identity, and they just played all black rugby again. And I think it was even fitting or telling even that in the first half, the tries were to Bowden Barrett, to Damien McKenzie, to Will Jordan. I think Caleb Clark had scored in there as well. And this was them moving it wide, the way they like to play it, and they got confidence from that, and they rolled on to a fairly comprehensive
I think that's right. But, two mighty Williams in the scrum was, Argentina was found out. They have had a very weak scrum, and unlike the uncontested Perth scenario, those were just all game long, easy points, easy entries, easy exits, and so then they were away to the races. It's interesting to see. Someone posted Will Jordan 33 tests, 33 tries. The boy cannot stop scoring.
It's a ridiculous strike rate. It really is. About the box, what really impressed you?
Well, the depth. So if you actually, if people just stop and think about it and try to find the equivalent of putting that team on the ground, with, about 11 or so caps in the front row and, maybe less than 10 in the second row, and just kind of project that out. It was a big dare. What worked was that even though the Wallabies were bigger in the contact zone in the beginning, in the final analysis, when you looked back through it, it was again a gain line monstering. About the same number of runs for both teams, 90 odd, but 378 meters for the box, 220. So that's a big gap in the same number of runs. Yeah. Kicking, actually, the Wallabies were in this game because they kicked more, 32 times, 29.
Agree.
Nick White was actually kicking really well, was not talking very well, and got chased by the ref. But he actually organized things better, where it was a little more helter-skelter. There was some more broken up play. There was some, gaps. And so you looked at the score and you thought, if Noah makes that kick and it's 12-11 at half, you go, even though on balance it doesn't really feel right, that's kind of like quarterfinals 2011. That's a way to play against a team that's sort of better than you at the moment and go, but I'm going to negate some of your strengths. So what the Bucks did was stay calm, I thought, and in the end, negate to the carrier. So Harry Wilson was the only successful carrier. LSL, our friend LSL had, he had 5 or 7 carries for 3 meters. Angus Blythe, 2 carries. Valentini, 5 carries for 13 meters.
Valentini was actually fairly quiet tonight, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. What they did was they met them on the coal face and the gain line and just negated that in the rain. So then you had kicks and you had chases, and some of those came off, by the way.
And I'm glad you mentioned chases, because that was the big difference for me tonight. The Wallabies chased their kicks very, very well, and the big difference there is Marika Corbett.
The guy is ridiculous. I saw him at the end of the whistle, and he was, on his hands and knees, spent, obviously. But I just thought, I mean, who exerts more energy than that fella in a game? So I think, withstanding the pressure, coming of age would be what the Box did well. And then stay on the right side of the referee, and sort of like, there was like one bad guy on the team on the field, which was Nick White, unfortunately for him. And
but he had an impact of his own too, which they kind of needed. So.
Sure, but none of the Box sort of got on the wrong side. And I think if you're the away team, we probably like that. As far as what else I could say that was good for the Box is, I think they found some combinations that might work for backups. That's about it. I mean, I don't think anything changed on the top line.
That's fair. Conversely, what didn't go what surprised you about Australia there before we go on to what didn't work?
Everything that I will say about Australia is true and false at the same time. So it's kind of weird. Like, I thought they actually were more disciplined, but then at the end of the game, you look at it, it's still 11 penalties and a card. I thought Tizano stepped up, but it's because they made him a tackler. So it's the whole, Pocock thing where you just make Pocock a tackler, then he's not a snaffler. So he has, 12 tackles and no misses. But then in the end, it's like kind of minimal impact. Because what you needed Carlo to do was get over the ball in third or fourth phase.
And I don't think I can actually remember him even having a crack at the ball tonight.
No, he just was a tackler, and then he was second man, so he couldn't really go. So what didn't work, I think, for Australia very well was what worked, which was the moving the ball at point of contact, the tip. The tip pass works for you, except it doesn't sometimes when everyone knows it's coming. So there were so many choreographed tips that was the snaffles for the Box. So the Box tackler would hang off. Second guy, they'd actually talk to each other and go, oh, okay, Harry Wilson tipped to LSL, boom, got him.
There was another example where Valentini tipped to Harry Wilson, and Harry has actually busted the first tackle and made 2 or 3 meters, but what all that actually did was land him at the feet of Peter Steph Dutoit, who just got straight over the top of it, and it was the easiest penalty of the night. Yeah,
so other thing I would say is, this is kind of weird too, scramble defense worked well for Wallabies until it didn't. So you look at the 4 tries to none, and you think should have been 7. But in every case that it was the 3 that were botched, it was also superlative efforts by somebody coming back. I don't remember who it was. Yeah.
Tom Wright had 2 try-saving tackles.
Chethan Colby was away.
Which was fantastic. And we've probably covered off what didn't go so well for them. Discipline was still an issue. I think the tip passes both worked and didn't work, I think, for the Wallabies. And whilst the kicking game, I would say, was mostly good, and they kicked for territory and kicked pretty smartly, I think they were also guilty maybe of trying to do too much with the kick. And there was a few little grubbers to no one, and there was a few cross kicks that ended up in the hands of wingers who then made line breaks.
Those didn't work. So that varietal of kick, this cross kick, was nowhere against Fassi.
No. Cross kicks definitely work better when they end up in your own team.
No, but it even looked like it was straight to Fassi. It was like, I think at one point Fassi was like, I don't have to jump, because he always jumps when he catches. He's like a goalkeeper who always dives when he doesn't need to. Yeah. He's like, I could just stand here and catch it. So that was terrible. The other thing I think was the maul defense was at times really good. And then it did what old school maul defenses did, which is bad. They pushed too far. They sheared off. They had 2 channels. And so what happened was the second movement on the maul for the Box would almost always get to the next place. Yeah. And what the All Blacks show you, which is the quintessential maul defense right now, is they freeze you. They even take a back step. They try to cohere and make the referee do that, call, where use it. Yeah. Because the refs are all much quicker on that. And so I think the Wallabies, they'll look back on that tape and go, why do we push through and splinter only for Marks, one time he fell down, he's holding the shorts and just riding along. So I think that's a work on, but that's fixable. And then I think the other thing is, so the lineouts were a mess for everyone. I never felt like I knew where the lineouts are going, and I would like to hear from people who were at the grounds. How windy was it? I think it was not just rainy. I think it was windy.
Yeah, it might have been. And Optus Stadium is one, because it's just so round and cavernous. The wind tends to swirl, so that could have been the factor. But I think the ball being so wet and the rain at times being so heavy, it would have just been a rough night.
They were just some lineouts that were to nobody. It was interesting.
Wouldn't have been great. Who learnt what from round 2, do you think?
Yeah, I think both coaches, Schmidt and Erasmus, we're talking about them, they would have learned from the brace of games. So I think they would take as an amalgamum the whole. I think the Wallabies definitely know they have to be bigger and stronger in the contact zone, which is not always size, it's just the power of a run. So I don't know where Joe goes with that, but I don't think he's happy with the stats from 2 games where the gain line was impenetrable. He's going to need to have something, and maybe it's Tupou, maybe it's more Bell on the carry. I don't know. There's something that needs to change there, or
we'll hear from him in a minute. But
it'll be hard in the Bledisloe. I think also Joe would have been comfortable with Noah at 10, but not overwhelmed, not ecstatic, but just kind of like, that boy can run a team. I'm going to stick with him. I feel like he probably sticks with him. What do you think?
It wasn't a night for 10s, to be fair, and even Feinberg and Gomazulu.
But it's a good test for 10s too, because
it is absolutely
horrible things happen. The ball slips here and there.
I was a little bit surprised that, and I don't know what feed you were watching, but Stan Sport Australia gave Feinberg and Gomazulu the man of the match, and I thought, oh, that's a curious selection. But then Atco kind of gave it up and said that they actually wanted to get him on so they could stick him next to Sonny Bill Williams. And I was like, whatevs.
They were friends from way back. And
I know it's going back to an old photo. But like, if that's how you're going to trump up a man of the match award, then what's the point? Like, just get him there for the interview.
You lose integrity on the man of the match.
Yeah. But I'll say this about Noah Lolosio tonight: he was fine.
That's all I saw. The learning. I think Joe wanted to know that, so I think he wanted to know, give a good gauge, and so having, a dry track Brisbane and then a wet track Perth is probably good for him to see, what kind of wet weather 10 he's got.
And I think we know that Joe thinks that, because Donaldson didn't come on till about the 75th or 6th minute. So
I think so. It's hard to know though. Like, I know that Rassie kept some guys on who were not playing very well. Because he wanted to sort of like, no, I'm going to give you a little bit more. As long as we're kind of in the lead, even though you're not playing very well, let me see what it looks like. Knowing that he had sort of a 15 to 20 point edge anytime he wanted to with the bomb squad. So I think both coaches wanted to find out in their slippery areas, sort of backup 10, hooker, I think, was a big observation for them. And then I just come back to the composition of the loose trio. I don't know I don't think anyone troubled Fraser McWright. So Fraser McWright's the big winner of the series.
That's a fair point.
How much did we miss Fraser?
Well, look, I'll actually give Josh Nasser a rap, who has started. He started tonight. He's been on the bench for the last 2 weeks. Matt Fessler, I think, was well and truly the best Australian hooker. And even through the July test, he absolutely deserved to start last week. Didn't have a great time of it. No. Josh Nasser actually put in a good shift in this game tonight. So he's done his future no harm at all. I'll certainly give him a rap. Very quickly on the other game, I feel like New Zealand have learnt, actually, you know what? Everything's okay. Let's just carry on. Let's go to South Africa and see how we go then. Then it can be panic stations or not. Argentina, I think, also learned, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And it might have been a case of it was hard to get them up for the second week again.
I'm not sure they were even phased. I think they took that first win and they went to
played
the
their
bar,
grand final
and they went to the next bar and they crawled to the next bar and they woke up on a bar and did it again. So I think, you can never begrudge that kind of win. So New Zealand would say that's good, but they will still be smarting about that first loss because it grew great on them. And I think maybe Razor has something to work with there. He can always go back to that first one and say, guys, you lost. And so you can keep them hungry and angry. I thought the haka was even angry. I thought it was like the first haka I've seen in a while that made sense to me, that I felt like was deserved. It was sincere.
Haka with intent.
Yeah. I felt big.
It's one of those wins though where I thought, did you actually learn anything from last week though, or is just everything just fallen into place tonight and you've just carried on? So I don't know. I think they're still in a bit of a state. Let's hear from Joe Schmidt, who did speak with Michael Atkinson and the Stan Sport team post match. Insert clip right here. So, like I said to you before, mate, I don't mind that from Schmidt. He's seeing the little improvements that he wants to see. He spoke of the fight, and I think he used the word. He might have used the word bravery to stay in the contest, and that's all right. If he's seeing incremental improvements, then that's probably all he can ask out of two teams against the best team in the world. But he also made the point, yes, they're the best team in the world, but we need to be competing with these guys. So he's saying, yeah, we've made the incremental improvements, but we're still not where we want to be. And I like that. I think that's the right way to move forward.
He's a very sober coach. I don't think he would lie to his team. I think he would sit this team down on Monday or Tuesday whenever they had the review and say, look at the tries that could have been scored against us if Sasha just catches the ball.
Yes.
Peter Steph keeps that just up in the air and maybe Creel's closer to him, and then on the chest and break. And he would, the cautionary tale would be, guys, they could have put us to the sword. So when I came out of the Georgia and the Wales games, what I said to you in the audience was, I'm worried about the defense. I'm not really that worried about the attacking shape. That takes some time to gel, and Wallabies will tend to score a few points here and there. But I just worried about how quickly Georgia and Wales scored sometimes. And so sure enough, 63 points later with about 30 points left on the field, that would be my number one, number two, number three work on. And
they conceded too many points in July. There's no question about that. So that's still a valid work on.
I don't know where so I think that comes. It seems to me to come from. It's not just a work rate issue. I think you saw the difference between Corbett coming back and some of the other fellows, but I also think there's a speed quotient. Yep. So I think he brought Max on just to see what it looks like to have some top end speed, because there was a moment where Mapimpi had a jailbreak and he put on the toe to Fussy and they just lapped Carroll away. I mean, they just lapped him. He was nowhere, and they could do that forever. I think that's a worry going up against Will Jordan and the speedsters, Rico Ioane. So I think there's some of that. I mean, Kellaway's a clever player and he always plays a little bit quicker than he is. But sometimes when you're found out, you're found out. The other thing I would worry about a little bit is the scrum inferiority if it's refereed differently. So I would think that those two work on scrum and defense, boring old-fashioned rugby stuff.
Yeah, just the fundamentals of the game then. Easy. That then is a wrap on the Test Match Post-Mortem for week 2 of the Rugby Championship. And with that, another service to Test Rugby fulfilled. Another great wrap, mate. Enjoy these. I really do enjoy these.
Yeah, these have been like gangbusters too. They're on fire. So hopefully we'll see what happens next.
Absolutely crazy numbers. Yeah. So a shout out to the 75 of you that watch us on YouTube this week. But tell us what you think at the 8-9 combo on all the socials, or do please leave your thoughts in the comments section right here on the 8-9 combo YouTube channel, or tell Harry and I on the socials in our usual places as well. Make sure you've liked, follow, subscribe on your pod platform of choice and on YouTube, like about 200 extras of you have in the last week or so, and we say welcome and thank you. But make sure you get everything as soon as it drops. And don't forget to head to RugbyPass.tv, where you can see the 2019 series of Chasing the Sun, the documentary series celebrating South Africa's back-to-back Rugby World Cup titles, and with the 2023 series Chasing the Sun 2 coming soon. Sign up for free and watch it wherever you are in the rugby world. This is the Test Match Post-Mortem from the 8-9 combo, the short side set piece combination you didn't realise you needed, coming from the podcast double act you already had. I'm Brett McKay, he's Harry Jones, and we'll be back in your ears with Australian rugby media doyen and genuine friend of the pod, the great Jim Tucker, next week.
One final nugget. Nick White feeds the scrum backward, make sure that the ball is behind the 50 to create the 50-22. Come play with us.
Smart.
I finally saw the reason for the skew feed. You've got to make sure it goes backward.
This is the 8-9 Combo Podcast with Brett McKay and Harry Jones.